Greetings, Internet. Welcome to Aaron Plays, and I hope you're doing fantastically well. This will be episode 39 of my playthrough of Into the Woods by GMT Games, which is the Battle of Shiloh. We're currently partway through the 8 a.m. turn. Now, as I'm recording this, I haven't actually played since the 10th of September was the last time I recorded and played a turn. For you guys, it's been a couple of days since the release because I was scheduling the releases. And as I'm recording, this is on September the 23rd, so it's nearly 2 weeks since I've delved into that rule book, which could cause a few little teething problems again, but I hope you can stay with me. In the last episode, we had Hindman activate, and the chit that was drawn out was Hindman activating again, which is going to be putting pressure on that Union Center. So if you could do the YouTube, like, subscribe, and comments, that's appreciated. But let's go down to the map and see what is about to transpire. So as we're going to see, Hindman's in the kepi there, has been drawn out. Just as a reminder to myself, rather than necessarily a reminder to you, he's already had, he's the only one activation. He's got one activation that's in here. That means he's got a total of 3 activations that's in the pot, and this will be the second of them. Okay, so let's put that down there. Let's bring this down to the bottom, and let's see what he's going to be doing. Okay. Before we get on with Hindman, well, as part of Hindman, one of my eagle-eyed viewers noticed I missed this from Claiborne's last time they activated. Now, I need across the stream. I'm going to do his turn from last activation. So, but he's already disordered. I think I want him to recover from disorder before trying to cross, because if he then tries to cross and fails again, that'll be second disorder. That'll be even more problems. So in the last activation, the comment mentioned it was the 38th Tennessee. It's actually, there is no 38th Tennessee in Claiborne Division, so it must have been the 35th. But I'm going to just try and recover his disorder, requiring 5 or less. 6. So he didn't recover anyway. Okay, so that was the housekeeping, and now we get on to this activations. What are we going to do? So we now have Polk's first corps starting to arrive on the right flank of Hindman's third. And I think it's time we went in hard on the Union. So just bringing up the sequence of play, just as a reminder. Okay, we're in this area here, the activation segment. The AM pool, Hindman was drawn. Hindman was drawn. Or change orders, please. So do we want to change any of Hindman's brigade's orders? Well, these two, Shaver and Hindman, is he Wood? Where's Wood? Where's the commander? Oh, he's right up there. They're both under attack orders, whereas Claiborne is under advance. So do we need to change that to actively engage? I don't think the answer is yes on that one. So we're going to keep them under advance. Yes, we can't go into dealing with him, but if we can get into loss, well, they could take loss field. Happy with that, and keep on encroaching on this area of the field. So we've got to keep an eye on these guys who have enough problems with these guys, we hope. So that's the plan for this turn, is engage hard the Union here, Peabody and Miller's brigade. Okay, well, there's mainly going to be the remnants of Peabody, isn't it? Let's start with Shaver, shall we? Shaver's brigade. All right, so do we want to change any orders? The answer is no. Do we want to have brigade coordination? No, because it's more likely that they won't actually do what I want them to do at the moment. So we then go into action phase, and I say we're dealing with Shaver first. Okay, they're under attack. That means that they can move and shoot once per activation. So we've got a disordered unit under here. I think we prefer to rally him. We've got Shaver with him, and they've taken some losses. So, right, okay. Well, let's move this one in first. 1.5, 3. Okay, and he's now going to shoot. And he's going to shoot at this big boy here. Okay, so bringing up the charts and tables for shooting. Here we go. All right, so they are armed with, that's a little M on their muskets at 1 hex range. That's a +2 to the shot on the die roll modifier, +2. Then other modifiers. So we've had range effects, terrain effects, the shooting into the woods. So that's that's -1 for terrain. None of these else will affect. So it's net +1 and maximum 6, well, it's maximum 7 increments can fire. So we're looking at that column there with a +1 modifier. High is good. 3 becomes a 4. The effect on the Union is that little d. That means they've got to take a UDD. Their current morale is 4. And they get a +1 modifier because it's a Union before 9 or 10 a.m., whichever one it is. 4 + 1 is 5. So they fail that test. And they're already disordered. So we've got to look at second disorder. In a moment, they do get to shoot before that occurs. So with their shot, that is 16 increments spread over 3 hexes. That's 5 per hex, with the 6 being in the actual counter. So 5 increments back on return. Now, on the actual small arms, they are, should have double checked what they armed with. Muskets as well. So if they're firing at +2, we know that's the musket modifier. Range effect, they're firing into the woods as well, so it's -1, but they're also disordered. There's another -1. So it's a net 0 modifier on their shot. This is happening simultaneously with the shot that's just come in. Okay, they rolled a 4 straight with 5 increments, which is also a little d on the Confederate unit. Okay, his morale is 7. Okay, he passes. So now we have to do a second disorder that affected the unit from the Confederate fire. So that's where we look at the second disorder table, and it's not been friendly fired. Well, as a result from the fire table, they lose 1 strength point and they retreat 1 to 2 hexes. Okay. Now it says 1 to 2 hexes. They actually have a choice. But let's first of all do their actual losses. That 16 becomes decrease on this one. There's 15 of them. And then they fall back. They're going to just fall back the 1 hex. Okay, the choice to retreat is up to the Union player. Oh, that's me too. And they decide to retreat 1 hex. If the Confederate unit started adjacent, they could have retreated. Sorry, they could have advanced into that hex. But as they didn't start adjacent, they cannot. Okay. So carrying on, let's move this unit up here. So that's 1.5, 3. And now they can fire into that unit. And he can't actually return fire because he's already fired this activation. So it's muskets again, but then it's at 2 hex range, which is no longer that lovely +2. It's, you can see on the table there, -1. That's -1. Then you've got, that's the range effects. Terrain effects, they're firing into the woods and through the woods. Okay, there's an extra -1 per time, so it's total -3. No other real modifiers apply. So it's -3. Again, we know high is good. 2 with a -3 with 6 increments firing is nothing. No effect. Okay. All right, so that's those 2 units from the brigade. We've got this one here. We actually want to, that is currently disordered. We want to recover its morale. So that is, he's got a morale of 4, but he is stacked with Shaver, whose modifier is at his star rating. So he makes that 5 to recover. 8, they don't recover. In actual fact, they might take some losses. Hold on there. What I had to check up there was because his rating is 4, and we rolled an 8, which is twice as much, they would lose an SP, but the die roll modifier of Shaver makes that a 7, so he's okay. But yeah, that was potentially not very good. All right, this cavalry unit here is part of the brigade. I can't see it. It's can't recharge. I'm going to keep that in reserve. I'm really struggling to find what to do actually with the cavalry in this awful terrain. Okay, this unit now moves forward. 2. Now, it's approaching guns. Does he fire or does he actually get up close and personal with the guns? Let's get up close and personal. Right, now the artillery has what's called approaching fire. It's the first time I've really done this. So approach fire, artillery may fire at an enemy unit, line of sight and facing permitting, that when using movement enters a hex anywhere within 3 hexes of the guns. You may do this only once per enemy brigade activation. So can I do this once per Shaver's brigade? But he could do it again through Wood's brigade, but Wood's already got a unit adjacent to him. Artillery that uses reaction facing may fire at the enemy unit that moved adjacent. He can't change his facing anyway because he's already got an enemy unit in and adjacent to him. So now that's the thing. He can do this once per enemy activation, and he's got to do it immediately. So this is where it's me v me. I moved the unit to here, so the gun could fire. I know I want to move that to forward 1 more hex. The Union player doesn't. So does he hold his fire with those guns for me to move adjacent because he knows that I am because it's me, or you see what I'm getting at? It's me versus me. So I know this unit's moving forward. The gun player doesn't. But if this gun unit stopped moving, he loses the opportunity for approach fire. So I'm going to make that a 50-50 decision. 1 to 3, he fires at this hex with the approach fire, or he waits until I'm actually adjacent. He waits till I'm actually adjacent. So the unit moves into there. Now, okay, so this unit is firing now. All right, we know muskets is +2. He's firing into the wood, makes it only +1. And there's again 6 increments, 7 increments firing, +1. So that becomes a 4 on my handy dandy table. That's a D on the Union unit there. They roll a 2. That probably is good enough for the guns. And the actual unit that tests is the infantry. So they're fine. Right, now the artillery can let rip on that Confederate unit. So it's TB, you look at the gun batteries, it's TB and L. At that range, they both should be about the same. Okay, so let's go back a table on here. So L's at +3 at 1x range, and TB's at +3. So the modifiers are both +3. Okay, well, that was easy to sort out. All right. So the range effects, +3. Terrain effects, they're firing into the woods, +2. I don't... Prepared fire. Do we go artillery get prepared fire bonus? No, no. That's what this column is here for the infantry. So it's net +2. Disperse mounted, firing artillery. No, none of this really applies. Okay. And it uses the small arms fire because it's canister. So using it rather than long shots. So, and there's 6 increments firing. So 3 + 2 is 5. That's a D on the Union unit, Confederate unit, whose morale is 6. Rolls a 4, he passes. Okay, slight correction on what just occurred there. I declared it simultaneous. So as the Confederate unit moved from this hex to this hex, it suffered approach fire from the artillery. So the artillery get to fire first. So if this unit had disordered, it would have got to that hex disordered and his fire would have been disordered. Then this unit gets to fire, and then this unit gets to fire again, the artillery, with return fire, which I'm going to do now for it. So we know it's +3 for the canister, which then becomes +2 because we're firing into the woods. And it's a 5. Now that's going to be a low ammo, which then becomes a 7 on the actual result. Natural 5s, as you can see with the little star here. And it's got 6 to 8. So 5 + 2 is 7. That's an automatic big D, automatically disorders. And that's from the return fire part. So let's just flip that. And now I have to mark the guns as low ammo. Firing, ammo depleted. Ammo depleted. There we go. Find it eventually. Right. That's the correct sequence. So then this guy's artillery, Shaver's artillery, will move up and they always classes on advance orders. So, right, line of sight restrictions and artillery advancing. Let me just double check the rules on that. Okay, so moving the guns, get my mouse in the right place. From here to here is fine, even though it's within 3 hexes of this guy, he's not in line of sight. If I moved him from here to here, he would be in line of sight, which means you'd have to take a UDD and such forth. And there's a lot of guns there. We're not going to risk it at this point. So that's as far as those guns move. I think that is Shave's Brigade's movement part done. Now we're going to declare some assaults. So let me get the assault markers out. Again, get my mouse in the right place. Cool. Sometimes the mouse just like to go where it wants to go, doesn't it? Okay. So we're going to put a shock marker on them and a shock marker on them to engage this X here. Okay. So we then go through the shock procedure. Let me bring this up on here. We have the shock resolution procedure. All right. So designate all targets of shock and charges. None of those are charges because both of them fired. whilst involved in the actual shock itself. Okay. Perform retreat before shock. These guys are under advance orders, so they do have the option to retreat before shock. I'm not sure about the guns, but let me another checking of the rules. The guns cannot, so the infantry will stand with them. Okay, so that's the second step, which is perform retreat before shock. Green attacker commitment check. Okay. They're green and they're green. They've got to determine if they actually want to go in. So the second AR, which is Arkansas, 7. 4. They're keen. The other guys, they might be less keen because they're the 7th Arkansas because they're only on a 4 morale. They say, don't like it up, sir. So the answer is no, they don't go in. Is there anything, as they're already disordered, is there anything worse than that occurs? So, second disorder table. All right, they failed a pre-shock cohesion check. No, that's not what we're looking for. We're looking for, this is where you've got to find what actually occurred there. Hasn't got a green one. That's because failing that check doesn't cause a disorder. It just means they're just not keen to get involved in the actual fight itself, which is fair enough. Okay, so let's go back to where we were. All right, so one of the units is keen, the other one's not. Defenders pre-shock cohesion check. Now this is because notice that one says green attacker commitment check. This is a cohesion check. So what's defenders pre-shock DRMs? -1 per leader. Is there a leader in that hex? There is, Mr. Peabody himself. So that's a -1. Unit in march mode. No. Is unit disordered? I don't think they are. Are there disorders in that hex? No, they're fine. Okay. Is defender being attacked from the flank? They are. So there's a +1 on that. Cavalry charging? No. Fatigue? No. So there's basically a +1 on the check. You rolled a 5, +1 is 6, and +1 because it's a union is 7. Hold on there. Yeah, they stand. Okay. Now it allows them to fire at that point, pre-shock reaction fire, but they can't because they're been hitting the flank at this point. Now, if I'd attacked with Wood's brigade, combined the 2 brigades together, they would have been facing a front and flank attack. But at the present moment, they're only facing a flank attack. Also, if that unit had gone in as well, they'd have been facing a front and flank attack. But they decided that discretion was the better side of valor. Okay, so we now resolve the shock. This is where I use my pluses and my minus dice. Reds is the Confederate, white is the Union. So we're looking along this table here. Shock, die roll, adjustments, odds, ratio, benefit. Okay. So what are the odds in this attack? So we have 12 versus 2. The artillery, I'm sure, I'm going to double check, of course, don't count towards odds. This is why sometimes I need to check the rules. Guns do count if they're on the top of the stack. They give 1 strength point for every 4 guns rounded down. So there is actually 6 guns in there, so they add 1 strength point. So it's 12 to 3 or 4 to 1, which is a +4 modifier. So Confederates are getting +4 for their odds. Then it says any defender disorder? No. Charge benefit? No. Stacked with aggressive leader? No. As per the terrain chart? Yes. There's a woods. I'm not sure for shock these woods do anything. No, they don't. No effect. Okay. The A.S. Johnson effect? No. Then you've got position modifiers. It is a flank attack. That's another +3. So it takes that up to 6, 7. How do I say show 7? Oh, I don't know. Okay, we know it's 7. There's going to be some minuses in the moment anyway. Well, I'll tell you what. Yeah, there we go. It's 7. All right. Then pro defender or benefit. No, any attacker disordered. No, because the one that was going to be disordered didn't actually go in. If they had gone in, they'd have been a -1, but then again, the odds would have been higher. So attacker has no brigadier. That one does apply. So that's -1. They do have a brigadier, but is not getting involved, staying back here in any of the actual shocks. I mean, there's only one shock going on, but he's not involved in it. So no. Attacker with advance orders, no. Each successive continent is not, and as per the terrain chart, no. So we know it's a +6 modifier on the actual result. So we're in the determine shock DRMs, done that, resolve the shock. So we roll the grey dice with a +6. 0's as low as it goes. +6 takes him to the defender retreat. Defending units retreat 1 hex and then disorders. Well, that could have been absolutely crushing, but if you roll a 0, you roll a 0. Okay. Because the artillery can retreat as well. Let's just move those out of the way for the moment. So that was actually perfect result for the Union. So they can retreat from there. The artillery can retreat because it's along the road. They can retreat as long as they don't spend more than 2 movement points, which in this case only costs them 1.5. So they can retreat to there as well. The Confederate unit can advance, so they advance into there. All these guys then become disordered. Okay. And then the last thing I should check is Peabody himself. That's a good point. We need to check him. I don't think he actually takes a loss because there was no step losses involved. No, there would be no additional actual potential losses there. If they'd taken a step loss, then we'd have to roll to see if Peabody was actually a casualty as well. And that ends the shock resolution. If they had rolled any higher, they could have probably continued the shock and take out those guns. But they didn't. So that ends Shavers. So I'm going to now mark him as activated for a second time. Put that on top there with his units, and that's him done. And he's had 1 shock this turn, or has he? Because we've now got, that's a good point, we've got post-shock checks. That's a good point. Thank you for reminding me. Okay, so this unit automatically disorders. This unit does not, because it didn't actively participate in the shock. Let's just get rid of those. But Shaver's Brigade, this is in their previous activation, they were involved in shock. So he now accumulates another fatigue point. So he's now at fatigue 0 rather than fatigue okay. I might as well get rid of that A1 while we're here. So that's Shaver's Brigade done. And I'm going to end this video here. I'm trying to keep the videos as short as possible. So I'm going to end the video here. And then we can then move on to Woods and then Claibornes. So you can start to see quite a lot of little interactions there once it starts getting into combat. Yes, I'm having to refer to the rules quite a bit. As I say, in the next video, we'll be having Wood and probably Claiborne together activating as we keep pushing on that Union center there. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. If you could, and you're still here, do the like and the subscribe and all the other YouTube bullshit that we need to do to promote our channels. But until next time, play games, have fun, bye internet.